Agent Survival Guide Podcast, Friday 5, our weekly recap of 5 things you should know about. I'm your host, Sarah Ruppel, and today is Friday, July 10th. Last week, we celebrated something called Halfway Day, which I did not know was a holiday until after the fact. And then it kept popping up in my feeds. For the most part, it's been people talking about the progress they've made toward their 2026 goals. Whether that's reading a certain number of books, completing a big project, or hitting a certain number of sales. So naturally, I'm now thinking about the progress I'm making toward my goals. One of which is to read 26 books in 2026, and I'm doing pretty well with that one. The other, and I don't think I've ever really talked about it here on the show, but every year we set a follower goal because it's one of the few ways we can track how this podcast is doing. In 2026, we have a goal of adding 500 followers to our podcast audience. So for those of you who have already followed along with the show, thank you so much. We appreciate you taking the time to make it official. And if you're not already following along with us, we would love it if you took the time to do that. Every follow brings a smile to our faces, and it really helps the podcast. Like I mentioned, it's hard to get a good read on podcast analytics compared to other content. It's just the nature of how RSS feeds work. So if you're not already following along with the show, but you really like what we're doing here, we would love it if you took a moment to tap on that follow button and help us get one step closer to our goal of 500 more followers in the year of 2026. And honestly, I'm curious what your goals are for 2026. If you're crushing them, or if you've hit significant milestones recently, we would love to know and we would love to celebrate with you. Send us an email at asgpodcast@ritterim.com and we will give you a shout out here on the show. And if you just trained your first downline agent and they rocked their first appointment and they wrote their first application, you can submit on behalf of others. We would love to shout out that victory as well. Now that we are officially in certification season, the first part of prepping for AEP, it is time to talk about summits. These are the annual conferences held by Ritter Insurance Marketing, the FMO that powers this podcast. We've got a great lineup of events this year, and you are invited to take a look at the 2027 Medicare Advantage and Part D plans from local, regional, and national carriers in your market. We also have staff members from both Ritter and Integrity at these events, so you can check out the technology we offer our agents. See how it all works in person, talk with your local sales reps, meet other agents from your area, and of course, sit in on panel discussions and learn more about sales, marketing, and the industry as a whole. And once again, Craig Ritter, CEO of Ritter Insurance Marketing, will be delivering the keynote address at each one of these events. We will kick things off in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania on September 1st, then head to Philly on September 3rd. The next week, we are in New Jersey on September 9th, and then New York on September 10th. We'll travel to Ohio for our September 15th summit, and we will wrap it all up on September 17th in Florida. And I will be at all of those events except for Florida. And I can confirm it is a great learning experience. Also great to get out and get some FaceTime with the people you're normally just talking to over the phone or over Teams. We will have the link to register for those events in our episode notes. Highly recommend taking the time out for these summits. You'll learn a lot. Get connected, and you'll have a great time doing it. AI is just about everywhere these days. I wouldn't say that we're tripping over it every chance we get, but it has certainly become pervasive. It's baked into Google search. You can choose from a variety of brands and models, and it's either coming soon or already integrated with voice-assisted search. And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, but I also don't know that it's a good thing. I find myself waffling between the two. So naturally, I've been reading a lot about AI recently, and I came across a few very interesting pieces examining the effects of AI on our brains. Perhaps more interestingly, there's a history in these arguments that dates back to other technological advancements like writing, the telegram, calculators, and so on, until AI. For my generation, at the time, we had no idea that those math teachers who asked us if we were going to carry a calculator for the rest of our lives would be so prophetic. And we can laugh at that now, but will we all be laughing at our current fears in another 20, 30, or 50 years down the road? I don't have the answer to that. And honestly, I appreciate using AI as a tool. I think many of us do. But I also think there's an appropriate level of caution and human oversight that we need to keep in mind as we're using what, again, I've come to think of as a tool, not a replacement for my brain. And don't get me wrong, I can, will, and have geeked out about all the cool features we have within Ask Integrity and those that are coming soon that will definitely help streamline things. But I'm a curious person. My mom's answer to a lot of questions was look it up, probably because she wanted me to develop that muscle, but also because she's not a human encyclopedia. So, all that to say, we are linking to a piece from Business Insider in our notes, as well as a very interesting piece from the American Psychological Association. There's a lot in there on cognitive thinking and the purpose of offloading, which we've talked about before here on the show. So, that's what is swirling around in my brain right now. And if you have questions or thoughts about AI and how it relates to our thinking capabilities and how we perform our roles in business, I would love to hear from you. The email for the show again, asgpodcast@ritterim.com. Last week, we had close to record high temperatures, not just here in Pennsylvania, but in many areas around the country. I don't pretend to know much about heat domes, let alone double heat domes. As we've been seeing higher than average temperatures, there's a lot to think about that we haven't previously needed to think about. It used to be that just the advice to stay cool and stay hydrated was enough. But there are quite a few ways that heat can have an effect on medications. As you're preparing newsletters for the month of July, might not be a bad idea to include some of the information that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention recommend in their guidance on the interaction between medications and heat. And again, staying hydrated sounds simple, right? Well, what do you do when your medication causes a reduced sensation of thirst? That commonly happens for those on diuretics, ACE inhibitors, and ARBs. And more recently, there are reports of reduced thirst sensation in those on GLP-1s, as the medication specifically targets some of those messages that your brain sends out to tell you it's thirsty. Electrolyte imbalance is another one that can be affected by diuretics, beta blockers, calcium channel blockers, antacids, laxatives, lithium, and trimethoprim sulfamethoxazole. Knowing simple ways to manage those electrolytes is huge, whether it's mixing some liquid IV or drip drop into your water, or something more aggressive like Pedialyte. We'll have the link to that document on the CDC website. That would be a great piece of content to include in your summer newsletters. Another great resource that we'll be linking to in our notes, the CDC has an online heat tracker that you can include the link to so your clients can check on the risk factor. Care providers are encouraged to come up with plans for orange, red, and magenta heat risk days. This is a great resource to get on your client's radar if they haven't heard of it. And keep in mind, this could be of benefit to them as well as their family members. We will have the link to that heat risk map in the notes, again, as well as the CDC guidance. And coming in at our top spot this week, scammers gonna scam. And while they're not targeting seniors this time around, they are targeting insurance agents. So let's talk about what's going on. How many times have you had someone reach out to you to ask about a product? Probably a frequent thing, and that's what makes this new scam so dangerous. The scammer pretends to be a potential lead asking for help with some type of product. So it might read something like, "Hi, I'm looking for health insurance coverage in Ohio and would like to review my options. Are you available to assist me? Please let me know what info you need from me to provide a comparison of plans." That's reasonable enough, right? Maybe at first glance, but this is the carrot that they're dangling in front of you. When you think about it a little bit longer, you might think, this is an email that's coming out of the blue, and it's not from a familiar address or prospect. What's been happening is that when the agent responds to this request for information, the prospect sends back a message that they'd like to set up a Zoom meeting as soon as possible, and they send you a link to join a call. The urgency is another red flag. While they might want coverage to start sooner rather than later, that level of urgency is not normal. And then couple that with them sending their own video chat link, that is an even bigger and brighter red flag. If you receive an email like this, do not click on the link. It could download malware onto your device. They could also use the connection to remotely navigate into your computer and steal information. What you should do is ask them to call you on the phone. Scammers typically like to be in control and stay on their preferred device or platform. Second thing, always send them your own Zoom link for the meeting. They might be insistent about wanting to use their link because it's the software they know. You can kindly insist that the interaction use your video software for compliance reasons. If it's a scam, you likely will not get a response back. And of course, you can also always ignore the suspicious email and delete it. Shout out to the agents who posted about this on insurance forums and are letting others know what's going on. This is definitely a case of if you see something, say something. And you can also report the incident to your state Department of Insurance so the authorities are aware of what's going on. And remember, you can also reach out to us here at the Agent Survival Guide podcast if you have questions. There's no question too big or too small. And honestly, I always say that the worst question is the one you don't ask. You can send those in to ASGPodcast@ritterim.com. We will be happy to get you some answers and potentially highlight some resources that could help. That's all we've got for this week. I hope you're staying cool out there, and I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Stay healthy and stay safe, and thanks for listening. The Agent Survival Guide podcast is a production of Ritter Insurance Marketing, an integrity company. This episode was written and produced by me, Sarah Ruppel. Script editing and fact check by Emily Ryan. Podcast design by Urban Rivera. Like what you hear? Follow along with our show wherever you get your podcasts.